I'm Dakota Pearson, and we're going to be talking about the different stages of the space race and how we got where we are today. So, in the beginning, the first plane flew in 1903, and then shortly 66 years later, we finally landed on the moon. Going through how we got here will help us move forward for the future. Through trial and error, we learned what worked and what didn't work. Not only that, but they recorded what they did, not only for history, but to help us understand why they did what they did. Space has helped humanity find new ways to be innovative and to do unparalleled research and to help improve our lives here back on Earth. What steps we're taking to get this far? Let's go through that together. So in the early stages of the space race, for starters, we were talking about the initial space launches for NASA specifically, which is National Aeronautics and Space Administration for the US at the time and still is currently. We have Pioneer 1 here and Freedom 7. Pioneer 1 was launched in 1958. Freedom 7 was launched in 1961. Pioneer was the first successful launch unmanned for the US, and it was to basically just get us into space and to help us better understand the moon at the time, and all we had on it was a TV camera to help us better understand the moon. Freedom 7 was the first successful manned mission to get a person in orbit and to help us better understand what space does to the human body and to prepare us for our next step, which was the moon. And to quote NASA here, Shepard became the first American in space, a flight that lasted 15 minutes, 28 seconds, end quote. Even though it was short, it helped prepare NASA for future missions. Now, the next step was to the moon and to stay into orbit. The US was determined to win the space race at the time because the Soviet Union was the first one in space with satellites, first one in space with manned mission. So the obvious next step was the moon. And after that, staying in space. To quote NASA here, 8 years, 1 month, and 26 days after President Kennedy challenged Americans to reach the moon, Project Apollo landed the first humans on the lunar surface and returned them safely to the Earth, end quote. Now, this is the Apollo mission here, the Apollo 11 mission. After finally landing showed how far we've come as Americans. Apollo made that dream a reality. After that, the next step was to establish a continued presence. And to do that, we were going to build a space station, pictured here. Tensions between the US and the Soviet Union began to loosen and cooperation slowly rose. Along with other countries like Canada, Japan, and Europe, all helped with the ISS, also known as the International Space Station. It was a major undertaking, and the first real step towards cooperation for this was when the astronauts and cosmonauts shook hands in 1975. Now we're going to move on to the current space programs. So for current space programs, after the space race, a lot of motivation for anything space related kind of sizzled. And it only got resurged when SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic, and a few others started really investing in it. And right here we have a picture of SpaceX's materials and Blue Origin's materials. SpaceX and Blue Origin made headway for space in 2010 and was kind of having like their own like little competitive space race. SpaceX made the most progress with launching Starlink satellites in 2018, then astronauts in 2020, then landing a booster that they used for rockets in 2024. Blue Origin made some progress in stable orbit in 2025, trying to catch up there to SpaceX to be competitive. And then SpaceX was talking about a Mars mission and was kind of hoping to see if humanity could finally reach Mars. They plan on sending an unmanned ship in 2026, and then hopefully that'll pave the way for manned missions around 2029 to 2031, give or take. And hopefully this will make space travel, instead of being sci-fi, more of a reality for us, and I think that'll be a really good thing. In conclusion, space has helped humanity advance tech and be innovative. What steps we're taking to get there? Well, we have the Pioneer and Freedom, which helped us get into orbit. Then you have Apollo, which helped us land on the moon. And then now we have SpaceX, Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic, and a few others to help us get into that space race nowadays. And with that, I think the public has gotten a little bit more interested in the space race. And with that, the private corporations are obviously going in for it. Will humanity reach for the stars and stay there? Who knows? I hope we do. But anyway, thank you for listening to my little talk here, and I hope you have a great day.